Okay, a lot of people think, oh, you're just gonna, take the Daime and have this wonderful, you're gazing at the stars. You described it. And like, not necessarily so.
There are a lot of people still fearful of the psychedelic long-term effects on them, like addiction. How safe and ethical is the use of your sacrament that you use?
Excellent questions. Thank you for asking them. They need to be asked.
Welcome to the show, where we discuss time-tested and science-supported tools for better health, long life, and pleasures.
We live in extraordinary times when the world is slowly awakening to the power of natural stimulants. We are witnessing a significant advancement in various scientific fields, including neuroscience, physics, and biochemistry, proving the undeniable link between nature and our body, mind, and spirit. These discoveries sparked increasing interest in public to the natural psychoactive substances and their medicinal potential. I'm Lilian Zelzer, and for over 3 decades, I researched, practiced, and hunted for natural stimulants around the world. In the process, I discovered many amazing secrets of Mother Nature and met a lot of wonderful experts who, together with me, share their knowledge in this show with those who want. Because, as Hippocrates said in the 4th century BC, if you are not your own doctor, you are a fool. Our guest today is amazing lady, Reverend Dr. Jessica Rochester, an expert on consciousness, non-ordinary states of consciousness, self-discovery, spiritual development, and personal transformation. She is an author, lecturer, teacher, speaker, and ordained interfaith minister with a doctorate in divinity. She's also the madrina and president of Pseudo Montréal, a Santo Daime Church in Canada, which she founded almost 30 years ago. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to join with you today, and I look forward immensely to our conversation. And thank you for your wonderful, open-minded interest and open-hearted approach to these sometimes difficult subjects.
It's a beautiful subject, and I was waiting for this interview for a long time. Today, we'll be talking about ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is a psychedelic plant brew, which originated in the Amazon and has been used in rituals and as medicine for thousands of years to help people improve the quality of their lives. There is an interesting fact about ayahuasca, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but during the 400 years of colonization in the Amazon, local communities and indigenous mestizo people used ayahuasca as their way to oppose colonization and maintain their national identity, which eventually led them to a revolution. However, after the 60s, when psychedelics became a popular symbol of freedom, rebellion, spiritual freedom, ayahuasca and other psychedelics were banned. Why? After so many years of abandonment and prohibition, we see the renaissance of psychedelics.
Well, you've asked such a broad question. I think I'm just going to pick out a few things to maybe put some clarity into the conversation and for the listeners. First of all, I want to make a distinction between entheogens, sacred plants and fungi, and psychedelics. Okay, so a lot of people just put psychedelics as an umbrella over them, which is very misleading. Okay, because sacred plants and fungi have been around for thousands, if not 10,000s of years, used in harmony with nature and human beings. Okay, we're not the only creatures. I mean, biologists have observed animals eating plants and fungi that we would consider. We wonder why they're doing it. Okay. So we just have to assume that nature and her creation have been living along in harmony, and that these plants have been used in ritual for divination, for rites of passages, for community building, okay, for as medicine, okay, for in deep understanding, deep intuition about a person's life, their health, their well-being. Psychedelics, however, are more recent invention. We can reach in back to the 50s, dear Albert Hoffman and LSD, right, his problem child. And we can see that psychedelics have been developed in laboratories to be able to use in research and for clinical use, because that's the way science works. They want to be able to weigh and measure things. So we do really have to separate out the structure and the use of the psychedelics from the sacred plants. Now, much as I trained with Dr. Stanislav Grof, one of the fathers of transpersonal psychology and one of the, of course, originators of all the LSD research in palliative care at Stanford University and the hospitals in the 50s and then into the early 60s. Why did the ban come about? It came about for a lot of reasons, okay? Many reasons. One of them being is, and this was more about psychedelics than sacred plants. They weren't being used so much at that point and in the 60s and the 70s. And so why did that happen? It happened because on some level, there was a threat to the well-being of society. What had the massive and much needed cultural change, okay, that became precipitated by many things, women taking a stand for equal rights, starting to shed their old personas artificially applied to them through culture and religion for thousands of years, okay? So many things were happening at the same time. There was an awakening, and it was coming in music and culture and society, and there was a number of main things that were driving it, and one of them being technology, okay? If we look at it, television and, airplanes, now you could go further and you can go deeper and you could stay in touch. And so technology was also a big player in what was happening. So if we understand what was happening, I think that we can look at it as having two main factors. One was there was a concern on the part of governments for public safety. People were having very difficult, unresolvable experiences afterwards. And, chapeau to Jules Evans, who writes about, difficult psychedelic experiences and trying to resolve them and trying to bring that really out to the forefront, because those things, by the other factors are trying to be suppressed. But there are some people who should not be taking these substances. There are some people who either because they're psychologically a little bit more fragile than the average person or the average seeker, or they're taking it for the wrong reasons, or they don't understand that a lot of times it needs integration. And so looking from the government's point of view, how many people walking out of fifth floor buildings do you need? How many people, getting into really difficult states, psychological states before they said, okay, this is dangerous. Now, the mistake they made was to ban rather than license, continue the research. This was their major error, is they should have continued the research, giving, license for research and study and supervised clinical use. And then it would have found its way to a much better place. But, then there was the second factor that was happening, which is the cultural fear of the collective unconscious and what was getting stirred up, and the need to put the lid back on Pandora's box. Okay. So anyway, that's the general perspective that I have.
Well, speaking of research, I understand that you spent considerable time researching and studying psychedelics, specifically ayahuasca. What initiated your interest to this subject?
Okay, just to clarify, it is nearly 30 years. First of all, it's nearly 50 years that I have been working in non-ordinary states of consciousness. It is nearly 30 years that I have been working with our sacrament, the Santo Daime, which comes under another term of ayahuasca. Ayahuasca, again, is an umbrella term, which can include many other plants. Okay, so ayahuasca is a term used by the indigenous tribes in the Amazon basin to describe a mixture, a brew that they make that could contain just the vine, what they call the ayahuasca vine, but it could contain many other medicinal plants, or in their world, sacred or power plants. Our sacrament, the Santo Daime, is only made from 2 plants, never anything else. There's no admixtures. Everything is grown from the cultivation of the plants. Harvesting the plants is only done a certain time of the moon. Singing, praying. Okay, everything is done in a sustainable and respectful way. There's a very apprenticeship style understanding of working with these plants. And that includes from the pichillo, the making, the harvesting, the pichillo, the making of the sacrament, the storage of the sacrament, the serving of the sacrament, when it is used, how it is used. And so I was 14 years under the supervision of elders, learning to really the tradition, and also learning how to navigate, and fortunately I had all those years of transpersonal counseling and training to prepare me for entering in, and was comfortable with my own spirituality and my own transpersonal experiences to be able to enter into this. So our sacrament is sacred to us. It's about 100 years. A person who founded the Santo Daime was trained by Ayahuasqueros. He was introduced to and trained by Mestre Irenaeus, the name of the founder of the Santo Daime, and he was trained by Ayahuasqueros in the Amazon basin. And he had visions from the divine feminine about how to take these sacred plants in the brew and how to make community and the ritual. And then he started to receive the hymns, the early hymns of the Santo Daime. And for people who wonder, well, why did this divine feminine come and talk to him? And why did it move from the shamanic ayahuasca use, which was focused quite a bit on medicinal and healing and divination about, where the prey was to go hunting, where the fish were in the river? How did it change into that? And for me, it seemed totally clear the reason for this was the Santo Daime is a community. It is not one person, like in shamanism, it's one person maybe with an apprentice. But to be able to start traveling around the world, the divine feminine force saw it needed something else. Okay, that ethically, it's going to travel a little bit better when the basis, and it's going to be able to make a better bridge into community when it is not just one person with one focus. Also, culturally, our worldview is extremely spiritually too, and religiously is vastly different from forest sorcery. In the Santo Daime, there are some roots of that. The Santo Daime is eclectic. It is a combination of Christianity with Amazonic shamanism, with some Eastern philosophies, with some European spiritism, with some African roots. Mr. Irenaeus was from Africa, okay? And so you have this very eclectic, kind of worldview rather than a narrow forest sorcery one, which again is more embracing of the cultures that the Santo Daime is entering into. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely, absolutely. More than that, I am so interested. I would like you to elaborate a little bit more about the actual use of this.
The Santo Daime, yes.
Sacrament in your spiritual practices.
And so the Daime, what we call the Daime, okay, we only use in ritual. Okay, and so in the Santo Daime, there are 2 concentrations. So we don't serve the sacrament anywhere else except in ritual. Okay, it is only in ritual. It's never taken casually, recreationally. There is in Brazil, there is a slightly broader context. For example, I was there present when in the kind of hostel we were staying in many years ago, a woman who was heavily pregnant, who'd done an entire 14-hour work that trekked up a mountain that day, at 2 a.m. Goes into labor. And the only thing she's given is, as she wants and will take, is some of the sacrament, which helped her immensely in the birthing process. So we don't quite have that yet in our regulations here in Canada. I haven't asked for it either, because I know that would be, each time we make a small stretch in our regulations is a very careful one that I know that will be received. And so here in Canada, we have our doctrine and our principles and our tradition and our ritual and what we call the rules of the Salau and the norms of the ritual. So what prayers we say, when we sing certain hymns, when we wear certain uniforms. We have seated works, which are mainly meditation, opening the work with prayers, closing the work with prayers, and these are specific prayers of the tradition. And then singing a set of hymns or a selection of hymns that the senior clergy and me as a madrina, in following the calendar of works, and also what in our church, each Santo Daime Church kind of has its own little flavor, which is very interesting. It's not like the Catholic Church, okay, like kind of cookie stamped out. Okay, each Santo Daime Church has its own sort of special connection, its own individual connection. It's certainly not a free-for-all, okay, just add whatever you want. Absolutely not. But there are certain things that are just a little distinct about each church, and what the Daime has revealed to them, and where in the world they are practicing, and some of the powerful spiritual influences that they are working with. Does that make some sense there? Yeah.
And this amazing, I understand that to create that deeper expansion of consciousness, you actually include music, acoustic vibrations, chanting, and perhaps even dance, creating that feeling
dance,
humble respect with a little fear of wonder what will be next. It's like gazing into the sky and seeing those small sparkling diamonds in the sky. It's an amazing experience. I'm pretty sure that once people would participate in a ceremony, they would want to come back.
Well, no, not necessarily, because here's the thing. Okay, a lot of people think, oh, you're just going to, take the Daime and have this wonderful, you're gazing at the stars. You described it. And like, not necessarily so, okay? What happens with the Daime is the Daime can show you many different things, okay, because it's expanding the consciousness. And then we have to understand, it's not just expanding the consciousness. We can achieve that in many different ways through meditation, fasting, trance singing, trance standing. There's many different ways of entering into a non-ordinary state of consciousness. However, certain sacred plants expand at a very strong rate, let's put it that way. And what you will be experiencing is a deep understanding. It's as if you are shown things about yourself, the nature of your life. Now, you may be shown things that are good, that are your strengths, your qualities, the things that you're doing that are enhancing your well-being and, serving for the well-being and health of others. But you will also be shown your flaws, your mistakes, your errors, where you've gone wrong. You'll be shown what you need to clean up. Okay. And so a lot of people don't want this. A lot of people just want a good time. If anything, there's something we call spiritual bypassing, which is when people just want to take something to get out of. And, some people have, in the field of addictions, for example, which has been of interest to me for many years. And a lot of excellent work has been done in the field, and I'm familiar with the people and the authors and have been in conferences with them and what have you, because it interests me as to what's underneath this. And Christina Groff, she's the late, she passed away quite a few years ago now, wife of Dr. Stanislav Grof. She wrote a beautiful book called The Thirst for Wholeness about her own addictions and how it was, like Jung said, this thirst for wholeness, this longing to be whole, to feel whole, and to feel one with ourselves and one with others and one with nature. okay, one with the divine. So this is the search for wholeness with self, others, nature, and the divine.
It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And more and more people who learn about medicinal benefits of the organic substances and just, psychedelics, they
Yes.
would like to actually replace conventional medications with that. But there are a lot of people still fearful of the psychedelic long-term effects on them, like addiction, irreversible changes to their mind, or impact on their consciousness, and the consequences of awakened spirituality. How safe and ethical is the use of your sacrament that you use?
Excellent questions. Thank you for asking them. They need to be asked. For those interested during COVID, okay, I published 2 books and piloted a research project because, like, what else were you going to do, right? And so, with colleagues and eventually 21 contributors, okay, and then we published in the Canadian Journal of Psychology something called Entheogens and Psychedelics in Canada: Proposal for a New Paradigm, in which we address these very questions. Anybody interested, you can get the link or a PDF on my website. I'm assuming the end of this conversation, that information will be shared, in which we address the need for ethics, and not just plain ethics, which are essential. Okay. For example, a nurse would have her code of ethics, an accountant will have his, a lawyer will have theirs, a doctor will have theirs. Those are all great. But for people who, researchers, clinicians, or self-acclaimed ritual healers, of which we're seeing a lot, we may not have a chance in this interview to discuss that, okay? But that's a big issue. People self-acclaiming to be shamans, self-acclaiming to be healers. Again, another interesting topic. But if we look at this, we can see there's a genuine need for a code of ethics that addresses the non-ordinary state of consciousness. So anyone interested, my colleagues and I wrote a code of ethics for non-ordinary states of consciousness. It's in that paper. And we talk about the pitfalls, and we talk about how what we call in our church visitor screening, what clinicians or researchers would call participant screening, how essential that is, how making sure that, we screen out people when in our screening process, because they have a medical condition that is contraindicated. Perhaps they have a medication they're taking that is essential for their health that is contraindicated, okay? Or because they don't appear to be psychologically stable. For example, if they have we have a lot of people who want, because of the prevalence of people talking about sacred plants and psychedelics in social media, and some books that have been published and documentaries that have been made, and everybody's talking it up like all you have to do is take ayahuasca once and your whole life is healed. Well, this is nonsense. I've been drinking it and serving it for 28 years. And I can tell you that, yes, you will grow a lot and transform a lot. And there's a lot that you will learn about life, but you got to do the work. There's no magic wand, no magic pill. You have to do the personal work that is required to actually manifest whatever teachings you've received. Okay?
Absolutely.
And this is essential. And so thank you. Such an important question about ethics and the need for it. Our church, I wrote a code of ethics for our church 6 years ago or something, when I thought, one of my training, somebody who I consider to be a teacher, it was Jack Cornfield, and in one of his books, I had done retreats and staffed at retreats with him. In one of his books, it just got published, I think 1999 or 2000. It's after the ecstasy, the laundry, and he talks about all the problems in spiritual communities. Well, we can say all the problems with politicians or athletes or name any group of people. It's the same problems: sex, drugs, power, money issues. It's human. These are human problems, so we can expect them. We should be prepared to face them, discuss them, and deal with them. We shouldn't pretend that our little group is above that because we're spiritual. That would be naive.
Absolutely. But perhaps I am naive. But if the use of ayahuasca in your church consistently produces positive healing and joyful effects on individuals, an elated collective group experience that bonds participants in harmonious coexistence and acceptance of others that did not exist outside of that ceremony, then is it possible that ayahuasca is potentially the answer for healing the world from all these wars and
No, no, it's not. Okay, it's not. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Okay, first of all, our sacrament is Daime, because remember, ayahuasca is an umbrella term, so that could be a little confusing for someone. But whether we're talking about Daime or ayahuasca, we should not think that it is again a magic wand that is going to all of a sudden bring people into. You have to remember, in the late 60s, I'm an aging hippie. Okay, I was in that whole movement. Okay, I went through the Eastern Door right after. I took LSD twice in my books. Anyone interested in my books? I tell my story. In 1971, I take LSD twice. I meet a being, an actual spiritual being, who says to me, "You will not be doing this again," and gave me my personal 10 commandments. Okay. And I followed them. So when I was starting to come to the Daime, I had to look upstairs and say, "Hello." And you told me, and I said, "This you do. This
so, yes,
you do."
there is no ayahuasca.
Not an answer.
G20.
It's not an answer. It's not an answer for everything. Sorry to talk over you. I apologize. But it is not. I wouldn't want anybody to hear this show and think that I'm saying that it is. No, whatever method that people use, and it could be therapy, it could be meditation, it could be doing yoga, it could be a martial art, it could be doing a vision quest, it could be sitting and talking in their church or their synagogue or their temple, or there's so many ways to reach the same place, and every way needs to be respected. And each person needs to find their own way, their own personal calling as to their own spirituality. And then we have to accept that there's a lot of people who are simply not interested in spirituality, who have absolutely no interest in anything but money and power and war.
In the time.
Okay. And we may not be able to wake them up. Okay. So instead of trying to wake everybody up, what we should do is just be impeccable and be a good role model. And then the people who come asking, the people who knock at the door, the people who say, "Please, may I come? Please, may I join?" The Santo Daime never solicits. Never. We don't proselytize. We don't solicit. We have a whole visitor screening that we insist that people go through. And the path is hard. To truly walk any spiritual path takes discipline, faith, devotion. And so it's not just, "Oh, I see marvelous and wonderful things." A lot of people hit a wall where the Daime says, "Okay, well, now you want to go further. You want to walk the path. Now you're going to have to do this." And they come to a decision. And the decision is, do this or you have to leave. And it's not us telling. I have many people come to me through the years and say, "The Daime showed me that if I'm not going to follow the instructions I received, that I can't come here anymore." That's not me telling someone. That's the Daime showing them their consciousness. There's no point coming, drinking Daime, and then going out and doing things that aren't in alignment with authenticity and integrity.
The participation in ceremonies, religious ceremonies, joining churches, or using psychedelics, it's all about participatory events. Each of us has the right to participate in the new holistic civilization of harmony and health, which we are observing now, that is actually evolving, if I should say. If you are one of them or have questions about anything we discussed today, please reach out to Dr. Rochester or read her brilliant book, Ayahuasca Awakening, a guide to self-discovery, self-mastery, and self-care. The link is located below this video. I would like to thank you, Dr. Rochester, for appearing on our show and helping our audience to better understand the mysteries of ayahuasca and your amazing establishment. Thank you again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you won't miss any of the new episodes. If you have questions, comments, or suggestions, please put them below the video. I do read them. If you are looking for a good, reliable source of specific ingredients, experts, services, or products, click on the resources link under this video. To health, long life, and pleasures.